The galaxy's deadliest planets had one universal rule: no one survived Class 13. No one. At least, that's what the Galactic Council believed, until their ships detected something impossible. The Class 13 death world known as PX-991, a planet so hostile that entire fleets refused to enter its orbit, had life signals. Not just survivors. Laughter. The beings inside were enjoying themselves. And when the Council sent their best investigator, Commander Vierak, to confirm the readings, the answer he received shook the foundations of the universe itself. "Oh yeah, we love it here! Toughest hiking trail in the galaxy. You should see the lava geysers, they launch you 50 meters easy. Best part? Free adrenaline rush!" The response came from a human. And the galaxy realized, too late, they weren't dealing with survivors. They were dealing with a species that saw the impossible and called it a playground. VRAKK, Mission Report, Priority Red. Galactic Hazard Evaluation Division. I have reached the Class 13 anomaly. What I have found is beyond comprehension. The calm line crackled as Commander Vierak stood frozen, his armored boots sinking into the ash-choked soil of PX-991, a world so inhospitable that even automated drones barely lasted minutes. His squad fanned out behind him, their advanced hazard suits hissing with stabilizing gas mixtures. The data readouts screamed danger, toxic atmosphere, lethal radiation, gravity fluctuations that should tear organic life apart. And yet, laughter. Not just any laughter. The deep, unbothered, downright cheerful kind. The squad's weapons snapped up as figures emerged from the swirling red mist. Humans. The lead figure was bare-chested, wearing nothing but reinforced combat pants and boots. His scarred muscles glistened with sweat and chemical residue. His arms? Folded casually, like he had just finished a morning jog. A dozen more humans followed behind, some carrying supplies, others hauling what looked like the corpse of a creature made of pure plasma. The bare-chested human smirked. "Human. Well, damn. Took you guys long enough to check in on us." VRAKK, impossible. His mind struggled to process what he was seeing. The creature they were dragging had enough residual energy to vaporize a starship hull on contact. The temperature here was hot enough to ignite steel. Yet these humans were relaxed. His instincts screamed at him. Every alien species that had ever stepped foot on a Class 13 world had died screaming. But these creatures, they were having fun. The human, clearly their leader, grinned wider, offering a hand. "Human. Name's Jack. Jack Revenant. You must be the big boss they sent to check up on us." Vierak didn't take the hand. He was too busy calculating the impossibility of what he was witnessing. VRAKK. "You should not be alive." Jack chuckled, rolling his shoulders. "Jack. Yeah, people keep telling me that. But hey, turns out PX-991's got some killer hiking trails. You should see the lava geysers, launches you like 50 meters up. Best adrenaline rush in the galaxy." A heavy, stunned silence filled the comms. One of Vierak's officers, Tessic, took a cautious step forward, his voice tight. "Tessic, you enjoy this place?" Jack turned to his men. "Jack, boys, you hear that? These guys think we don't like it here." The other humans laughed, a deep, battle-hardened, feral sound. One of them, a woman with a deep scar across her eye, hoisted a massive, still smoking railgun onto her shoulder. Human soldier. "Hell, sir, I'd retire here if it weren't for the radiation storms." Jack. "Bah, radiation's not even bad. Besides, a little mutation never hurt anybody." Vierak's pulse pounded in his skull. The Galactic Council had spent centuries fearing Class 13 planets. Whole species had gone extinct after making the mistake of stepping onto one. Even elite soldiers in top-tier environmental armor lasted minutes before their bodies crumbled. Yet humans had colonized one. No. Not colonized. Conquered. VRAKK. "How long have you been here?" Jack scratched his chin, thinking. Jack. About a year? Yeah, a year. The first 6 months were a little rough, lost some good men, But gotta adapt. Vierak reeled. 6 months? Surviving even 6 hours on this world was a statistical impossibility. One of Vierak's officers stepped forward, his mandibles clicking in panic. Alien officer. Commander, this is an extreme violation of natural order. These creatures are not normal. Jack's grin widened. Jack. Oh, buddy. You have no idea. He snapped his fingers, and 2 more humans emerged, hauling a pulsating, biomechanical heart the size of a hover tank. It throbbed. Tessic, whispering, "By the void is that?" Jack patted the massive organ, grinning like a man who had just finished a great meal. Jack. Yep. Local apex predator. We call it a hell spawn. Mean as all hell. Tough, too. Took 3 of them just to keep me entertained. Vierak stared at the severed heart, his stomach twisting in horror. The last recorded encounter with one of these creatures had ended in the complete extinction of a planetary colony. Not a single soldier had survived. Yet Jack Revenant was using it as a trophy. Something in Vierak snapped. Vierak. Do you understand what you are? Jack finally stared directly into Vierak's eyes, and for the first time, the alien felt a deep, unsettling chill. The human's grin never faded. Jack. Yeah. We do. A moment of silence. Jack turned back to his squad. Jack. All right, boys. Load up. We're moving to the next sector. There's a storm front coming in, and I want to see if we can surf the lightning bolts this time. The humans cheered. Vierak took a step back. Every fiber of his being screamed at him. Run. Leave. Get as far away as possible. But the worst part? Jack saw his fear. And he was enjoying it. Vierak's mission report, sent hours later, would shake the Galactic Council to its core. Request immediate reclassification of humanity. Class 13 is no longer a viable scale. These creatures are something beyond. They do not survive Class 13 conditions. They thrive in them. They seek them out for amusement. The final words of the report, written in trembling hands, sealed the fate of the universe. We have made a grave miscalculation. They are not the ones in danger. We are. VRAKK, the humans. I have no words for what I have seen. They are not merely surviving this Class 13 world. They are thriving. No species should endure such conditions, yet they call it fun. This is no longer a reconnaissance mission. This is a matter of existential security. The encrypted transmission cut off as Vierak stared at the data streaming through his visor. His squad had gone silent behind him. The Galactic Council's strict classification system, its universal scale of planetary danger, was crumbling before their very eyes. Jack Revenant cracked his knuckles. So let me guess, he said, voice relaxed but sharp as a blade. Council's losing their shit, huh? Vierak took a slow step forward, his posture rigid. They have every reason to. Your actions here defy all logic. No known species. Jack laughed, loud and unfazed, shaking his head. Let me stop you right there. See, that's your problem. You keep trying to fit us into your neat little boxes. Class 13? Dangerous? Sure. But for us? He stretched, rolling his shoulders like he was about to go for a morning jog. It's just another Tuesday. The human soldiers around him smirked. One casually adjusted his reinforced exosuit, while another slung a makeshift flamethrower over his shoulder, still dripping with something that sizzled as it hit the ground. Vierak's mandibles twitched. You enjoy this place? Jack grinned. Oh yeah? We love it. Best deployment I've had in years. You ever fought a living firestorm? That thing was a rush. Me and the boys are thinking of capturing one, see if we can ride it next time. Tessic, Vierak's second in command, made a strangled noise. Vierak's pulse thundered in his ears. The sheer absurdity of it was overwhelming. His kind had fought wars, eradicated threats, conquered uninhabitable worlds, but never had they sought out destruction for sport. You don't fear death, he murmured. Jack shrugged. Death's an old drinking buddy. We've had a few close calls. But fear? Nah. Not our style. A deep rumbling in the distance interrupted the conversation. The ground trembled. Tessic's scanners flared red. Commander, seismic activity increasing. Something. A roar split the sky, a noise that didn't belong in the physical world. The wind shifted, howling unnaturally, carrying the scent of something ancient and predatory. Jack's eyes lit up. Ah, hell yeah, he muttered. Right on schedule. Vieirax's HUD locked onto the source, a colossal entity, its body a writhing fusion of molten rock, plasma, and organic tendrils, erupting from the cracked earth like a god of annihilation. Tessic stumbled back. What is that? Jack grinned. Boss fight. Without hesitation, he slammed his fist against his chest. All right, team. You know the drill. Weapons free. The humans cheered. Vieirax stared in disbelief as the human soldiers moved toward the creature, not retreating, not strategizing for survival, but charging straight at it like maniacs. One of them pulled out a massive gun labeled Betsy, in crude human script, and fired a round that shook the atmosphere. Another pulled what looked like a plasma grenade taped to an alien's skull and hurled it with a laugh. Jack moved like a predator who had found his perfect prey. He ignited a blade carved from the bone of a prior kill, its edge shimmering in the unnatural light of PX 991. Vieirax's instincts screamed at him. This wasn't war. This wasn't survival. This was entertainment. You're insane! He roared. Jack dodged a tendril of molten fury with impossible speed, rolling under it before planting a grenade beneath the creature's core. Yup, he called back. The explosion sent a shockwave across the battlefield. The creature screeched, rearing back in pain as its entire left side vaporized. Jack grinned. Come on, big guy! That all you got? The monster lashed out. Jack ducked, sidestepped, and vaulted onto its back like it was a training drill. His soldiers followed suit, some using grappling hooks, others launching themselves via shockwave boots, landing directly onto the monster's flailing form. They weren't fighting it. They were playing with it. Tessic's voice was a breathless whisper. They're winning. Vieirax couldn't process it. A kill like this should take an entire fleet, dozens of warships, planetary bombardments. But these humans? They were dismantling it piece by piece, laughing, cracking jokes, enjoying themselves. Jack drove his blade deep into the creature's core, twisting. Its form shuddered, ruptured, imploded. And with a final, earth-shaking cry, it collapsed into oblivion. Silence. The dust settled. The battlefield belonged to the humans. Jack jumped down, wiping sweat from his brow. Phew. That was a good one. Haven't had a warm-up like that in a while. Vieirax was shaking. Tessic looked at his commander. What do we tell the council? Vieirax couldn't think. Jack walked over, clapping a hand on his shoulder. Don't overthink it, buddy. Just tell them the truth. Vieirax finally understood. The galaxy had spent millennia fearing extinction from Class 13 planets. The real extinction-level event was humanity. And they were just getting started. VRAKK, the humans are not merely enduring Class 13 conditions. They are dominating them. I have just witnessed an act of warfare that defies all logic, all biological constraints. The creature they faced, one that should require an armada to neutralize, was felled like a mere nuisance. These beings, they are something else entirely. The recording ended, and the encrypted message vanished into the council's data vaults. Vieirax lowered his communicator, exhaling through clenched mandibles. His squad stood behind him, still as statues, as they processed what had just unfolded. Jack Revenant stood in the wreckage of the battlefield, hands on his hips, looking almost bored. All right, boys, clean up crew. Get some samples, see if this thing had any good loot on it. Maybe we can turn some of this biomass into portable fuel cells. His soldiers moved without hesitation, securing chunks of the still smoking carcass. The ground beneath them was a fractured wasteland of ash, molten debris, and crystallized shockwaves, yet they walked it like it was just another day at work. Vieirac forced himself to step forward. His limbs felt slow, heavy, burdened with the knowledge that every conclusion he had drawn about humanity had shattered in the past few hours. "You are not normal," he said, voice edged with something between awe and horror. Jack turned, raising a brow. "Well, no shit, Commander. You think anyone normal would sign up for this job?" He gestured around the scorched battlefield. "We're the best at what we do. What is it you call this?" He grinned. "A Class 13 death world? That's just a Tuesday to us." Vieirac swallowed his instinct to run. "And if it had killed you?" Jack shrugged. "Then we die. But we die laughing." Tessic took a shaky breath. "This is madness. No other species would seek this out willingly." "Yeah, that's the thing," Jack mused. "Other species see a Hell's Cape, they run. We see a Hell's Cape?" He grinned. "We colonize it. Turn it into a resort if the view's nice enough." Vieirac stiffened. The implications of that statement sent cold terror through his veins. "You're telling me you would willingly inhabit a Class 13 world?" Jack laughed. "Pal, you should see what we've done to Mars." Tessic inhaled sharply. "Mars, that dead rock in your solar system?" Jack nodded. "Yeah, well, we got bored, so we fixed it up. Terraforming's almost done. Place is looking nice. Good place to raise a family. You should visit sometime." Vieirac's mind snapped like a live wire. A species that could turn an uninhabitable world into a livable one was already dangerous. A species that actively sought out death worlds as playgrounds? They weren't just another civilization. They were an apex predator. Jack checked a device on his wrist and sighed. "Well, hate to cut this chit-chat short, but looks like we've got another storm rolling in. Last time we got caught in one, Jenkins tried surfing the debris field and almost broke his arm." He chuckled. "Dumbass stuck the landing, though?" Vieirac's brain could not compute. "You surf catastrophic weather events?" Jack blinked. Yeah? What, you think we just hide?" Tessic muttered something in his native tongue that roughly translated to, "What in the name of every star in the void is wrong with these creatures?" Jack clapped his hands together. "All right, we should probably set up for the incoming storm. You guys sticking around, or you gonna scurry back to HQ and tell your bosses that the big, bad humans are still breathing?" Vieirac had never in his life experienced something so utterly wrong. War, death, suffering, these things he understood. But what he saw before him? Humans not only embracing destruction but thriving in it? It was beyond comprehension. "Jack Revenant," he said slowly. "The Galactic Council will not accept this." Jack smirked. "I figured. They scared?" Vieirac clenched his fists. "They want to eliminate you." Jack's smile didn't fade. If anything, it grew. "Good luck with that," he said. "They wouldn't be the first." Tessic exhaled in something close to horror. "You knew they would react this way." Jack tilted his head. "Of course. You think we don't know how we look to you guys?" He took a step closer, voice lowering. "But here's the thing, Commander. You lot still don't get it, do you?" Vieirac held his ground. "Enlighten me." Jack's grin widened, but this time, there was no humor in it. "We're not the ones in danger," he said softly. "You are." The wind howled. A storm was coming. Not just in the sky, but in the stars. "VRAKK, the humans are more than an anomaly. They are more than a danger. They are something the universe has never encountered, a species that does not survive in hell, but thrives in it. This is not speculation. This is fact. And if the Council does not act, there may not be a Council left to act at all." Static hissed through the encrypted channel before the transmission cut out. Vieirac exhaled slowly, mandibles tightening as he stared across the hellish wasteland of PX 991. The air was thick with heat and radiation, the sky split open by a storm that could erase entire colonies, and yet Jack Revenant was grinning. "Looks like we're in for a big one." the human said, cracking his knuckles as the first plasma-laced winds rolled in. Haven't had a real challenge since we landed. The Iraq's second-in-command, Tessic, barely concealed his horror. You call this a challenge? Jack shrugged. Wouldn't be fun otherwise. The storm churned the atmosphere, laced with unstable gravitational shifts. Even with his species' superior technology, Vierac felt his armor straining against the relentless force of the elements. The humans, however, stood relaxed, rolling their shoulders, adjusting their weapons, gearing up like this was some kind of event. Jack glanced at one of his soldiers. What do you think, Myers? You up for a little lightning run? The man grinned, securing his gear. Hell yeah. Been meaning to see if I can get close enough to ride the thermal currents this time. Vieirac's mandibles twitched. You intend to run toward a hypercharged, plasma-fueled megastorm? Jack raised a brow. What, like we're gonna run away? Come on, Commander. Thought you were paying attention by now. A bolt of searing, reality-tearing lightning struck the ground not 20 meters away, exploding the terrain into a gaping crater of molten rock. The humans cheered. Tessic took a slow step back. This is madness, he whispered. Jack turned to him with a casual grin. Nah. This is just Tuesday. Another howling vortex of energy spiraled overhead. The sheer force of the storm should have torn the human settlement apart, yet Vierac saw the truth. They had adapted. They had built structures designed to harness the storm, siphoning its energy into portable generators. What should have been a world-ending catastrophe was just another resource for them to use, repurpose, and weaponize. Vierac's mind raced. He had been sent here to assess the situation, but there was no longer anything to assess. The conclusion was already written in fire and blood across the sky. Humanity did not fear the impossible. They became it. A blaring alert cut through his comms. Tessic checked his scanner and froze. Commander, he said, voice tight. We have a problem. Jack turned, interested. Ooh. A problem. I love those. Tessic ignored him, continuing. We're detecting a new energy signature. One that doesn't match the storm. Jack's grin widened. Well now. That's interesting. The scanners flashed again. Vierac's blood ran cold. The energy wasn't from the planet. It was coming from orbit. Tessic inhaled sharply. They're here. Jack's expression didn't change. Let me guess. Council didn't like our little science project? Vierac clenched his fists. You knew this was coming. Of course I did, Jack said easily. I figured your bosses would get jumpy once they realized we weren't the ones in danger. Tessic's hands shook as he read the data scrolling across his screen. Commander, it's an extermination fleet. Jack nodded like he expected this. Yep. Saw that one coming. Vierac stared at him. You don't care? Jack exhaled, cracking his neck. Nah, see, this is what we call a learning opportunity. Vierac's entire worldview tilted. You planned for this? Jack gave him a sideways look. Come on, Commander. You think this is our first rodeo? Tessic stiffened as his scanner pinged rapidly. Weapons are charging. Jack's smile sharpened into something predatory. Wanna bet who fires first? The comms flared to life, an authoritative voice booming across the channel. Galactic Fleet Command, this is High Executor Koran of the Galactic Council. The species known as humanity has been deemed an uncontainable existential threat. Surrender immediately or face eradication. Jack whistled. Damn. They're really going with the exterminate on-site approach, huh? Vierac's breath came short and shallow. You have to listen to them. You cannot fight a fleet. Jack laughed. Buddy, he said, eyes gleaming. We already took one. Silence. Vierac's entire body went cold. What did you just say? Jack stretched his arms, looking at the storm rolling overhead. PX-991 wasn't empty when we got here. Some other fleet thought they could clean us up first. He cracked his knuckles. Didn't work out for them. Tessic's voice barely functioned. You destroyed an entire fleet? Jack tilted his head. Well, they started it. Vierak's heart pounded against his ribs. A fleet, an entire fleet, gone. Vanished. Without the council even realizing. How? Vierak rasped. Jack's grin turned razor sharp. Come on, man. You really want to know? A deep, resonating hum filled the air as the sky split open. From the dust-choked horizon, something massive emerged, a colossal, impossible construct, built into the very bones of the planet itself. Vierak's scanner malfunctioned immediately. Tessic choked on his own breath. What is that? Jack rolled his shoulders. That's our ride. The ground rumbled, the energy signature of an orbital-class weapon powering up. Vierak turned to Jack, barely able to form words. You weren't just surviving here. Jack's smirk widened. Nope. Tessic exhaled in raw horror. You were building a weapon. Jack exhaled, shaking his head. A fleet shows up to wipe us out, and you think we wouldn't prepare? He turned his gaze skyward. That was mistake number 1. The sky burned as the first orbital strike was launched. Jack didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. Instead, he just sighed. All right, boys. He rolled his shoulders. Time to teach these guys why humans don't play by the rules. Vierak's mind fractured as the human retaliation began. VRAKK, the Council's fleet arrived, expecting an extermination. Instead, they found something far worse. Humanity had prepared. They were not the prey. They were not the hunted. They were waiting. And now, the hunters have become the hunted. The orbital bombardment had begun. Columns of plasma fire rained from the sky, carving glowing trenches into the wasteland. The ground split. The storm roared. The fleet above PX 991 loomed like a god's executioner, its weapons primed to wipe humanity from existence. And Jack Revenant smiled. That's cute, he muttered, watching the bombardment from atop a shattered rock formation. They're trying real hard, aren't they? Tessic's hands shook over his scanner. Commander, the humans are just standing there. They're not even. Ship, Jack said, holding up a finger. Watch. From the dust and flame, a shadow moved. Then another. Then hundreds. And then thousands. The human battalion rose from the inferno, marching through the fire untouched, weapons gleaming in the storm-lit chaos. No panic. No desperation. Just purpose. Jack cracked his neck. All right, boys. Show 'em what we built. The storm above split apart as the human weapon activated. A massive energy signature pulsed beneath the surface, shaking the very bones of PX 991. The battlefield's terrain was shifting, not collapsing, but unfolding. Vierak's HUD flickered with unreadable data. What is happening? Jack grinned. That's our counterstrike. The planet's hidden structure revealed itself, not a colony, not an outpost, but a war machine. An underground fortress city of steel, plasma batteries, and planetary-grade weaponry. The entire surface had been a decoy. Vierak's breath caught. You turned this death world into a trap. Jack laughed, adjusting his gloves. You sent a fleet to kill us. But what happens when a fleet lands right in the middle of a kill box? Tessic's scanner pinged in panicked warning. Incoming. A shockwave of raw energy exploded from the planet's core, engulfing the atmosphere in an electromagnetic pulse. The Council fleet's targeting systems scrambled, shields flickering, formations breaking. Then the real retaliation began. Rail cannons the size of skyscrapers emerged from beneath the surface. They fired in unison, their rounds splitting the sky into a web of destruction. Ships shattered instantly. Vierak's calms erupted in screams. The fleet's defenses were designed for planetary invasion, not for fighting an entire planet that had been turned into a living weapon. Tessic whispered in disbelief. They never stood a chance. Jack exhaled. Nope. The sky burned. The fleet above PX 991 was being erased. Vierak clenched his fists. Stop this. There is still time. You can end this war. Jack looked at him with something cold. You don't get it, do you? He said, voice quiet. This wasn't a war. This was a lesson. Vieirac stared. Jack turned back to the battlefield, the storm raging behind him. His soldiers were advancing, flanking, pushing through fire like they were born from it. The Council's forces were breaking apart, scrambling for retreat. And humanity wasn't letting them leave. Jack exhaled. You called us an existential threat. You sent a fleet to wipe us out like we were some kind of plague. Vieirac had no response. Jack's voice hardened. So tell me, Commander, what happens when the plague fights back? Above them, the last flagship tried to escape. The planetary defense grid locked on. Jack gave the command. A final, thunderous blast lit the sky. The flagship disintegrated, its burning remains falling like meteorites onto the battlefield below. Silence. Smoke curled in the air. The last of the Council's fleet was gone. Jack turned back to Vieirac, cracking his knuckles. So, you gonna tell your bosses what happened here, or should we pay 'em a visit ourselves? Vieirac's vision blurred as reality sank in. Humanity hadn't survived PX 991. They had owned it. And now? Now they owned the galaxy's fear.